Welcome to the Complete Fitness Podcast with Core4 Complete Fitness. Your episode is starting in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Hello,
Hi, everybody. Oh, yeah.
We're coming at you from the same place today. I had to pick up protein, so we're doing it double whammy style.
They call me protein.
They call me protein. I had to pick them up. Like always, guys, before we get going in today's podcast, welcome to the Complete Fitness Podcast. If you could do us a favor, like and subscribe. Takes 2 seconds, and that way you'll get notified whenever we drop a new podcast episode. Whether you're on YouTube or Audible or Spotify or iTunes, we're pretty much on all the platforms that we know of. But like always, if you could hit the subscribe button, we would greatly appreciate it. That way we can keep growing this thing, helping more people out, and you won't have to scroll back weeks and weeks to find an old podcast. Thank you. Now today, I want to talk to you guys about something that pretty much we think everybody can relate to, and that is injuries and kind of what happens when you get injured. Why do you get injured? If you're somebody that habitually gets injured in the gym, let's say it's a back problem or a shoulder problem, how to kind of correct the situation to the best of your ability. Granted, we're not doctors. We can't write to you, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. You need surgery. But these are kind of the things that we see in the gym day in, day out to help you long term so that when you do go to exercise, you don't hurt yourself. Thing number one, guys, reason why most people, not all, but a lot of people get injured is because body-wise, they have some kind of imbalance. And we talked about this a little bit last week when we talked about, spot treatment doesn't work. Same thing goes with your entire body, right? So if you're like, I want to get good legs or I want my quads to look great, so all I'm going to focus on is quads, you develop extremely strong quads, which is great, the top of your leg, but the bottom side could be really, really weak. We see this a lot too with people that have like desk jobs. If you're somebody that sits a lot all day, what happens is, let's say you're typing, you're driving, you're eating, and everything is kind of in this concave position where your shoulders are rolled forward. Everything begins to get super tight inside the front and your backside is super duper weak. So to remedy that situation, guys, it's important to kind of balance everything out with your training so everything gets equal love so that way you don't have weak spots, strong spots, tight spots, loose spots. And then you go to pick something up and you're like, what the heck happened? I completely injured myself. Now, one of the biggest things that we see inside the gym, probably out in the real world, is people that have back pain. And for a lot of people that have back pain, they think that they have a bad back. Isn't always true. What happens a lot is, just like I said, if you're sitting a lot over the course of the day, sitting when you're driving to go to work, you sit at work, you sit when you drive back home, you sit when you're eating dinner, then you want to sit some more to watch TV. This kind of, if you're watching me on YouTube, you can see the sitting position. I get super bunched up in my hamstrings. I'm leaning forward, so my back starts getting tight. Everything is loose back here, and everything begins to get tight in the front, your tight hips. So that begins to pull on your lower back. So rather than focusing solely on, my back isn't healthy or my back is weak or I need to strengthen my back, if you can focus a little bit on mobility throughout the hips, throughout the hamstrings, stretch, make sure that you're balancing everything out, all of a sudden that back pain begins to diminish. And it could have been your back was completely fine all along, but you had 4 or 5 problem areas that weren't getting any love that you had to focus on.
The imbalance is always super obvious. I love the stories of super consistent chiropractor people who are there. I have a bad back, so I got to go to the chiropractor once a week or once a month or whatever. And it's really just like your hips are out of whack. It's like, okay, if we actually just adjust, it's not even a back issue. It's your hips are a little tilted or cockeyed. I can't think of the words medically to describe it. But if we could align these hips and do different things to kind of rehab these hips to make sure that they align, this back issue would more or less alleviate itself. And it happens, like you were saying, on a grand scale. It happens everywhere. Like the tight hamstrings is such a huge issue when it comes to just people's just ability to squat, deadlift, obviously, and then just day to day pick things up off of the floor, move, run. A lot of runners that are slow runners, it has a lot to do with hamstrings, not just being able to fire the way that they should. So, yeah, the spot training issue, something with your back, you go, I can't do kettlebell swing because they hurt my back. It's like, well, currently they hurt your back, but what are we going to do to remedy that? You can't just keep doing kettlebell swings. Getting to the bottom of it might be your hips are a little shifted. So when you do that motion of a kettlebell swing, there's actually a pinch happening here, whatever, break down the spine, and this L5, blah, blah, blah. And you can figure out what the actual root is rather than just chalking it up to, I don't do kettlebell swings, I'm out. I don't do them. Now, you can still train the same muscle groups without doing kettlebell swings, so it's not like you have to do it. If you want to be healthy, you can apply that to almost any exercise. There's always modifications and ways to adjust it, but yeah, I always find it fascinating. Someone's like, yeah, I have a shoulder injury, and it's really a neck issue that they have or something like that.
It's like a pinched nerve somewhere. One of the biggest wake-up calls that I had, my back used to be super jacked up years ago, and I tried everything, stretching, would foam roll it, that would kind of take care of it for a couple days, and it would get back, and I found this thing on Amazon called the Psorite, Psorite.
Love this thing.
And
forgot about that.
Oh my God. So it's this thing on it's a piece of plastic with these two prongs that stick out. The prongs you put right over your abdomen, right above the hips. That's where I read on how this thing works, and all these reviews are like, oh my God, this thing changed my life. And you set this thing on the ground so the prongs are sticking up, and you lay right on top of the prongs. And they say your psoas muscle, it lies behind where your abdominal muscles are. So stretching it is almost impossible unless you have a masseuse that can push their hands in there. And it goes, these two tendons basically connect your lower half to your upper half. And when they get tight, they go, your range of motion starts to decrease. You can't twist, you can't turn. And so I was like, well, I'll buy this thing. It was on Black Friday sale, so I'll get it. And within 10 seconds, I laid on it, and I could feel my back start tingling. And so I was like, I'm either paralyzing myself or this is actually working. And did it every day for a week, and it's been completely fine ever since. So like I said in the beginning, thought it was my back the entire time. Could have been that I had extremely tight psoas muscles that I wouldn't have known unless I gone to a masseuse. But a lot of people, like we said, when you're sitting all day and you get the tight hips and you get the tight hamstrings, it tends to pull on your lower back. So let's say you're training in the gym and you're like, this bugs my lower back. That's why we said last week, it's so important to have a well-rounded approach to where once your hips begin to get strong, once your hammies begin to get strong, that takes all the brunt of the work off of your lower back, and everything starts to work kind of synergistically.
And more times than not, there's going to be imbalance just naturally. And what you do, for example, a hockey player, they're very bottom heavy. Their legs are strong, but their top halves are not.
They look like 12-year-old boys. You ever see them in interviews?
Yeah, they just look very, very normal. But yet they can shoot the puck way harder than I ever could in a million years. But yeah, they're little twig 18-year-old kids, but their legs strong. So the imbalance happens, and that's a big thing why in the gym you can't just go train the same thing over and over and over. You can't just be bicep curls and bench press like the very traditional lifting style and expect to just always have this healthy, good feeling. If more times than not, if you're training a certain area, the opposite area also needs to be trained. Bicep, tricep is a great example. If you go just biceps and don't train your triceps, there's going to be imbalance. You're going to experience different pains. And when you do certain things, real activities, picking something up, carrying a baby around, whatever, loading groceries and luggage or something, and you feel some discomfort, it's very, very possible it's just an imbalance of muscle growth or flexibility or decreased mobility or things of that nature. So you just got to be mindful. When you train for the purpose of health as well as the, it's this full circle moment, which we always end up talking about is, if you're training just to be aesthetically good looking, that doesn't necessarily compute to health. And that's why you can be a huge behemoth, upside down triangle, super broad, ripped guy, and then, drop dead when you're like 48 years old. It's like, well, that wasn't really health. You looked incredibly strong, but you couldn't,
your heart couldn't handle
you couldn't
all
walk
the other crap that
around the grocery store without being out of breath. So it's like, well, what's the actual thing? And at a much smaller scale, that happens with just the different muscle imbalance. So if you're somebody who's like, I love legs, I love training legs, but you're only training your quads, you're only doing, front squats, thrusters, and blah, blah, blah. Don't neglect the backside too, or vice versa. I know, very popular with ladies. They just want butt, good-looking booty.
Butt and triceps.
Glutes, yeah, and good-looking triceps and shoulders. And no, it takes a well-rounded. That's when you can experience the little, hip pain or back pain or something. It really could be from just the focus of one area too much. Weird. It's kind of weird to say.
Yeah.
Hey, you're doing too well in this spot.
But that's like with a lot of people. I think they think that, okay, the side that you see every day, your front side, the side that everybody else sees every day, your front side, like that's what you want to look good. So when you go to the gym, if you're like, okay, I want the arms, the chest, the abs, the part that everybody sees, and you only work on that, but you neglect all the back, you're going to get extremely, extremely tight up front, and everything on the back side is going to be underdeveloped and loosey-goosey, where you want to try to get them, think of it like a 50-50 split. We had one lady in our gym, Aaron, you're probably listening to this, but she goes, my right arm or left arm is like bigger than my other one. And she like flex, and I was like, yeah, you could tell a little bit, but it was from carrying her kid around all the time. Yeah. So she's like, how do I get my other side to balance out? So we were like, at the end of your workout, just work on your left arm, add in some bicep curls if you do 3 sets after that. That way it'll kind of catch up a little bit. But naturally, just based on our lifestyle, we're always going to have these imbalances, right? Sure. Depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed, even like getting out of your truck, which is weird, like taking that little step.
Yeah, it'd be weird.
And hopping in, and like you do it every single day though, and then one muscle begins to get stronger than the other one doesn't. So that's why it's super important to balance stuff. And even like in the gym, like there's a time and a place where you can work, upper and lower body together. But like for lunges or single arm stuff that you have to require each arm to work individually.
So good for you.
Yeah. Instead of like a barbell press every time that you have both arms working together, your stronger one's always going to take a little bit more of the brunt of it.
Yep.
But, don't be afraid.
Dumbbells.
Yeah. Dumbbells are great.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to do the other way. It's mixing.
But think of your body kind of like a big mirror. If you're working right side and left side, always just in the sign of the cross. If you're working the right side and left side, you want to balance them out. If you're working the front side and back side, you want to balance it out. And then when you can work everything synergistically like that, that's how everything begins to look good, and those aches and pains and creaks start to go away.
It's oftentimes just the mindfulness of it because of that reason. Like you want to be able to do everything. Like the example you used was the truck, but same thing. If you ever tried to brush your teeth with your left hand, it's impossible feeling. It's not. Yeah. Or like do your phone, send a text with your left hand. For me, because I'm right-handed, so hard to do, right? It's not a natural thing. Or like when you used to have a desktop computer, imagine using a mouse with your left hand. So odd. It'd be so much harder for you to do. But like things in the gym, like stepping down off of a box, I'm always mindful. Stepping down off of different feet. A lot of people listening right now might go, oh yeah, every single time I jump up on the box or step up on the box, I step down the way I'm comfortable. It's like, well, that's just because it was the first time you did it, that was the way you decided to do it, and you just stuck with it. But no, step up on your right leg, step down on your left. Step up on your left leg, step down on your right, and constantly work this kind of back and forth. It's the small stuff that you're not even thinking about. And, that ends up being a huge change. Jumping, like a lot of people have a dominant leg that they jump off of. That's why things like skaters, or skiers are very beneficial because it's equal. You're doing the same motion from the right and from the left. And then you think, oh, those aren't really a one-side dominated thing. It's because you're not doing it on one side. but you're constantly stepping down from the box the same way or stepping up. A lot of people will come in. It's usually beginners who haven't been doing anything and they're like just new to stepping up in general. Will only step up on their right side or whatever for a while. It's like, well, we got to make sure we do both. It's like, yeah, but I can't step up this high or whatever. It's like, yeah, well, it's a stepping stone. It's going to get there, but you can't just neglect it because it's like you're not doing it. You know what I mean? It'd be like, well, I can curl 50 pounds. Really? Let's see it. Well, only on my right arm.
Yeah.
My left arm's 20. It's like, well, then you really can't. I mean, you can on one side. So it's like, well, what's the end goal here? What's the actual purpose? You might be focused on the wrong thing. Remember, the goal is to be a well-rounded, fit person that can do everything for as long as we possibly can until we die one day. And not having the hang-up of, oh, I got to get out of my truck. I've only ever practiced getting out of my truck or into my truck this way.
I can never use my left leg.
Now I'm in a situation where I got to do it the other way, and I fall and break an arm or something, falling out or something weird of the sorts.
Well, that's what it is. We get ingrained into habits in our day-to-day. My kids are learning to ice skate, and so a couple weeks ago I took them ice skating, and they did good. I didn't have to hold them, and then I was like, do you guys want to bring your hockey sticks the next day and you can learn how to skate with a hockey stick? And they were like, yeah. So I gave them the sticks and both of them right away went to lefty. And I was like, nope. Immediately we're switching this up. So I was like, hold it this way. They're like, why does it matter? And I'm like, because if you do this and you start off being a lefty, you will always be a lefty.
That's right.
So I'm like, this will ingrain you to kind of hold it the right way. And your body does the same thing. We're creatures of habit. We do the same stuff day in, day out. And so when you do come in the gym, it's important to work everything and give everything equal love and equal treatment. Now, I will say, if you do have pain, or if you're like, okay, I have back pain, it's bugged me forever. I know that when I lift something like this, it bugs my lower back. What should you do to kind of make that situation start to go away? Number one, stretch your hips, butterfly stretches. Hip flexor stretches are fantastic. Hamstrings are huge. Just a standing hamstring stretch. You can do a sitting down hamstring stretch. And when that's done, that's still going to tap into your lower back as well. But the biggest reasons why we have tight backs is the hips and the hammies. And there's a muscle or there's a nerve called your sciatic nerve that runs right along. It's called your piriformis muscle. It's like right on top of your butt cheek there. And when you get a tight back, or you get tight hips or tight hammies, pushes on that piriformis muscle, which causes back pain. So again, your back could be completely fine. Granted, we're not doctors. If you have a slipped disc or something, you should probably see somebody. But if you're completely healthy and completely fine, and you're like, this thing is always bugging me, start with the hips, start with the hamstring, and that'll kind of take all that tension off your back and begin to pull everything back into alignment. Now, it is important to still train the muscles in your back. So that way you have actual strength back there and you have stability in your core, right? If you guys are watching me on YouTube, if you're sitting all day on a computer like this, an hour might not be a big deal, but 2 hours, 3 hours in, and you're driving like this and you're sitting like this and you're eating like this causes a lot of strain back here. So if you do want to strengthen that area, something that's like foolproof you can do at your house, you can do inside of the gym, you can do it, hell, at work if you want to. Planks are great. Lock in the position, either hands or on forearms are fantastic. Superman holds are fantastic. Glute bridges are fantastic. Stuff that needs no weight, that if you are a little bit scared and you go, I don't want to try to lift something, my back is finally good. I don't want to do a deadlift yet, or I don't want to do a good morning or something like that. They're simple things that you can use your body weight basically as the resistance. It's very scalable, even if you're new to exercising, and that way you can help strengthen that area without jeopardizing it or injuring it. So planks, Supermans, and glute bridges.
Planks, I remember seeing a post or something years ago about how it's one of the most beneficial exercises in the world, just for time, time's sake. It's limited space. You just need your body. Just planking strengthens everything. You can feel it's fun to plank when you're doing like a plank and your shoulders get tired, to really focus on your core squeezing, it'll take pressure off of your shoulders.
It's almost like you move it down.
Yeah. Or when your core gets fatigued and your shoulders are tight, you can squeeze your butt, hamstrings, and glutes, and that takes pressure off. And you can really play around with what each muscle is pulling from. Another thing this reminded me of is sometimes it is case by case. Like an example of that, the example I use of my back hurts when I use kettlebell swings. Maybe you can do kettlebell swings, but maybe your hamstrings are just so tight that on days that you swing a kettlebell, you need an extra 10 minutes of warming up your hamstrings. You can do it every single day. It's not just a fix that you go, oh, I got to strengthen my hamstrings, so now I'm working on my hamstrings. Mobility and flexibility and range of motion and being able to move is a day-to-day occurrence, especially as we get older. You need time to warm up. So if I have back pain when I do any type of hinging, deadlift, kettlebell swing, motion, sit-ups, and it's been related to your hips or hamstrings, part of your personal warm-up is going to be warming up your hamstrings every single time. Before every workout, I do leg swings. I do leg swings across my body, and I do leg swings side by side because it's the only way my legs and hips feel okay. I have a weird hip flexor thing that bugs me from time to time. If I forget or if I skip or if I'm lazy and just don't want to do it before I get into a warm-up, even if it's not even a leg day, every once in a while it just bugs me. So I make sure, I just know, I have tight hips. It's just part of me, whatever. I'm doing leg swings before every single workout at some facet. I need to. And if I skip or don't, it bugs me. And then if I do, it tends to be better or it limits the damage a lot. So, check in with yourself, be mindful of yourself. Be like, oh, maybe I'm just a person that needs to spend an extra 5 minutes on my hips. Maybe I'm just a person that needs to spend 5 minutes on my hamstrings. It's okay. We're all built differently. And structurally too. You have people, one of the big things with squatting is your femur length. The long femurs is such a huge change in the way people squat, the way we're built. Yet it's the same exact muscles, but some people have longer femurs than others, and it's just the body type. It's like ectomorphs and you know what I mean? Like all of that stuff. It's just everyone's different. You're just born with it. And if you're somebody with longer femurs, you might have this, you might be more, whatever. I can't think of the word. More, what's that? Whatever. Prone to the idea of having a bad back or bad hamstrings, whatever. But so it's just checking in and mindful and kind of learning what it is. Ankle mobility is a big thing. People don't squat and they don't squat low. It's not because they're not strong or not, whatever. It's because your ankles don't move that way. If you elevate your heels and pop your heels up on something, all of a sudden you go, whoa, I can get
way down,
way deeper. It's like, yeah, it's not a strength thing. It's not because you're weak. It's not because of anything. It's just a mobility thing at your joints. They're not used to working that way. If this is something you want to do and become more efficient at, you need to work at it. You need to train it just like anything else. And this is what gets away from people's idea of fitness where people just want to work out to look good. It's like, no, you're not. If you do ankle warm-ups every single day, you're not going to change the way you look on the beach. But you're going to change the way you are as a person. And that is 10 times more important.
You're going to perform better. You're not getting injured.
Right. And that's going to translate to how you look. Because as you go in, so it's it all comes back to, again, the whole idea of training for the right purpose, to be healthy. The good news is if you are training and doing the things to be healthy for you personally on a day in and day out basis, you are also going to get the fun stuff. Love the way you feel and look on the beach. But it takes the work and time to just do it for the real purpose, the real reason.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Hopefully that helps you guys out. I know one of the biggest things probably we see in the gym, number 1 is back pain, and number 2 is like neck and shoulders. And like we said, the biggest reason for both of those is because the way we sit, we carry all of our tension up here. Yep. When you're on the computer. Everything gets tight downstairs. So if you are somebody that's at a desk all day or you know that you're sitting a lot, I know with the kind of the American lifestyle, it is what it is. But if you can take a couple of those pointers and go, okay, every day I'm going to stretch out my hamstrings. I'm going to do a butterfly stretch. Take a minute if you're sitting at the computer for a long time and just kind of pull everything back into alignment, like roll those shoulders back. Yeah. 5 minutes a day. You do that every day. That's a whole lot of work. Even on upper body days, I'll make it a point to still stretch my hamstrings,
Yeah.
stretch my hips.
You can't just fully neglect it. Yeah, every day you got to system check your body. You got to go, okay, this is what I need to do. And some people take more, some people take less. But as we age, we all take a little more time. Of course, that's also when we start neglecting it more and more and more because we got more on our plate.
Agreed.
I look kind of beefy today, don't I?
I look chubby. My face is tired still.
I don't know what's happening to me.
Strong, baby. You're in the present.
I look kind of beefy today.
You're in the
I'm proud
present.
of myself. That's
rubbed off on you.
It's probably not good. Good sweatshirt on. It's hiding what it really looks like.
Next week we'll do it all shirtless.
Yeah,
shirtless
right.
Podcast.
Yeah.
But like always, guys, should you need help with anything, speaking of joints and injury stuff, if you go to core4supplements.com, we have a joint pain gummy that people have sworn by. You just take one in the morning. It tastes delicious. It feels like you're having a little snack or a little treat that you're not supposed to. But it helps a lot. We have collagen powder that's great if you have any joint issues or things that bug you when you're lifting and moving. Fantastic for your joints, fantastic for your skin, your hair. And then we got the big hitters, whey protein, daily greens. We have sleep gummies on there. Pretty much everything you could think of supplement-wise, we carry it. Again, core4supplements.com. If you watch or listen to the podcast, you'll save 10% off your order if you use the code word podcast when you check out. And if you spend over $100, we ship it all to your house for free. So enjoy, shop away. Other than that, peoples, behave yourselves today. Have a great week. And we will see you all next week. Peace.
Bye-bye.